Good morning, everybody. Thursday, June 3rd. Lots of great news to tell you about this morning, once again from Florida Mountain. So let's have a look at the headline. Integra intersects 3.2 grams per ton gold and 790.50 grams per ton silver, which equates to 13.37 grams per ton gold equivalent over 6.71 meters. Within that, seriously high grades of gold and silver, 27.04 grams gold, and what might be one of our highest silver assays to date, 6,631 grams per ton silver for a 112.38 gram per ton gold equivalent over 0.76. And so that's a serious amount of high grade. And what you'll see in this news release coming up, which I'm about to show you, it's a bit of a mix of high grade and long, low grade intercepts that we are presenting to you today. And just keep one number in mind, and that number is 79. And 79 is important because 79 is the total amount of high grade gold equivalent intercepts that we've released to the market since 2019. That's 79 high grade intercepts at Florida Mountain. So we're clearly on to something at Florida Mountain with respect to high grade. The resource potential, especially the high-grade resource expansion potential at Florida Mountain, is clearly evident. 79 intercepts, we know we're onto something. Just a bit of a memory refresher here. This is a Google Earth view of the Delamar project. There's Delamar itself, 3.3 million ounces right there. Florida Mountain, which is the subject of our news release here today, sits right there. War Eagle, which we'll be getting onto from a drilling perspective, coming up this July, sits to the southeast of Florida Mountain, and Black Sheep is this great earlier stage, more green fields, but certainly lots of exploration potential area to the northwest of Delamar, where we currently have 2 drill rigs in operation. So a total of 4 rigs in operation between Black Sheep and Florida Mountain. So jumping to Florida Mountain just here briefly, just to give you a bit of a memory refresher. This is from the west looking east. The top of the high wall is the top of the deposit. Right below this haulage road that you see right here is the bottom of the resource. So in between this area is 1.1 million ounces of gold equivalent. Please check our previous disclosure, by the way, on the breakdown of our resources, both at Florida and at Delamar. So what we've been drilling essentially over the past 2.5 years are these high-grade plunging chutes that we know exist below the deposit, and basically representing what the old timers used to mine via these adits here. So quite interesting, and today's drill intercepts certainly reflect that. You know, in some cases, hundreds of meters outside of the resource base, in some cases just on the periphery, in some cases large low-grade intercepts along the periphery, in some cases high-grade of obvious plunging chutes. Let's look at a digital view now. So when I pull up the digital view that's kind of loading up right now, what you see here is the block model, and it'll be coming up here in a second. And so zooming into that, the red is the oxide blocks, the green is the transitional material, both of that fair game for the heap leach, and the blue is the sulfide. And what you see there is our first high-grade intercepts that date back to 2019, actually. And you can also see a good view of the trade dollar blackjack vein that was partially mined high-grade back in the day. So skipping to all the holes that we drilled in 2020, just to show you from an abundance perspective, you know, 2020, we knew we were kind of onto something at that stage. We started to intercept, again, much more high-grade outside of the bulk tonnage low-grade resource, in the form of these plunging chutes, which we now know far more about in terms of what controls them and where they are. And then moving into Q4 2020, some more high-grade intercepts. And now you can see the flavor of us stepping out of the resource, in some cases up to 250 meters away, and hitting this high grade. And then moving into the first quarter of 2021, those results that we put out at the beginning of this year, again, more high grade, well outside of the resource model, as you can see here as I spin it around. So lots of high grade. So what this is basically pointing to is lots of high grade resource upside potential outside of the resource model itself. Now, zooming into today's intercepts, as you can see here, there's a bit of a mix of high grade intercept well outside of the resource in this case and in these cases here, and large low grade intercept on the periphery. In fact, the western side, the western flank of the deposit, extending out the limits of the bulk tonnage low grade. So a bit of a mix of everything. But where this is leading us to is we now have 79 drill intercepts, high grade ones at Florida Mountain, which are starting to really connect up. And what they're connecting up to is this potential high grade resource outside of the bulk tonnage low grade. And we believe that 79 intercepts are certainly proving that. And so if I pull up all of the 2021 drill intercepts for this year, boy, it's really showing that there's a cloud of high grade well outside of the bulk tonnage resource, which is pointing to resource potential in the form of three veins: the Stone Cabin, the Alpine, and the Trade Dollar Blackjack. So we're starting to think about something that's pretty important. What would this high grade look like if it was brought into a resource? How best to do that? And then maybe how best to bring that resource into a potential mine plan in the future, well past the PFS that we're going to be delivering this year. And so when we're thinking about that, we're thinking about how to optimize the resource definition, delineation, if you like. And we believe the best way to do that from underground, we're starting to think about what it would look like if we were starting to drill off these high grade resource more optimally from underground. And so we've actually come up with a bit of an internal plan which shows what that would look like. So what you're looking at right now is the top-down view of the Florida Mountain open pit per the PA. Of the three main vein zones at Florida Mountain, this would be Stone Cabin, this would be Alpine, and this would be Trade Dollar Blackjack right here. And what would that underground exploration initiative look like from a targeting perspective? Well, it would look like something probably a bit like this, where you see an adit coming in from the side of the mountain. And I'm just going to try and transition this over here. And that adit point would be right on the western flank of Florida Mountain, similar, in fact, identical in nature or in orientation to the way the old timers got underground to access and mine some of those high grades under the mountain. So in terms of a lateral drive, we measured it. This is about 500 meters. So not a long distance to be driving an adit into the side of the mountain. And then from there, you would set up drill stations that would look something like this to drill off the potential of these Florida Mountain high-grade chutes. So imagine, if you will, exploration that would define these high-grade chutes, obviously at some point in the future, and then imagine what those high-grade chutes, when defined and subject to obviously showing continuity and bringing these into a mine plan, what could that do for the overall economic portrait of Florida Mountain and in fact the whole Delamar project? Think about what an underground high-grade mining scenario could look like when added to bulk tonnage low grade. I'll let the audience come to their own conclusion on that. We believe it's certainly a target worth pursuing. Obviously, 79 drill intercepts that are high grade speak to a lot of potential there. And so stepping out and looking at the macro on Florida Mountain and moving away from the concept of high grade underground drilling just for a moment, just looking at Florida Mountain, where we're heading next with Florida Mountain. So as I mentioned in the beginning of the news release, we've got 2 drill rigs, which are essentially drilling the high-grade extensions of Florida Mountain from the top of the deposit or the western flank. Very soon, in the matter of the next couple of weeks, we'll be moving one of those rigs and tasking it to the eastern flank of Florida Mountain and that target there, which is called the Florida Keys, all this area of dark purple. Now, that area of dark purple is 0.2 grams per ton in soils or above, so some very high-grade soil anomalies. And if this dark purple here, which is related to the Florida Mountain deposit itself, is any indication of resource upside potential, we believe that this Florida Mountain, Florida Keys target here has some tremendous potential to be fleshed out. So really exciting drilling to be coming up in the next couple of weeks here. And then kind of stepping out and moving into more of the macro view. I think I've shown this to our shareholders previously. If I haven't, Here it is. Well, so we did our first couple lines of IP over top of Florida Mountain. We kind of got what we were looking for, which was, evidence of chargeability related to the three vein zones there. That would be Stone Cabin, that would be Alpine, and that would be Trade Dollar Blackjack that you can see there. So three lobes of chargeability that are related to the deposit. Really, we weren't too surprised by that because that's the tendency that we see everywhere at Delamar. High chargeability related to these deposits. What we were not expecting was this anomaly here. And that's an area called Rich Gulch. And so some of the highest chargeability targets are now coming out of this area. And in fact, if you look at the macro view of this, lots of chargeability. In fact, this chargeability anomaly here would be one of the highest, strongest chargeability anomalies on the project to date. So picture Florida Mountain here, 1.1 million ounces as being the tip of the iceberg. And all of this chargeability here related to Rich Gulch, maybe being the edge of the vent complex, a deeper part of the system, obviously mineralized because there's lots of chargeability there, lots of old workings that we don't know much about, quite frankly, in that area, some historical drill intercepts that are quite spectacular. So this is a big, big area, and this is an area that hopefully we'll be getting into late summer into fall. There's some permitting work to be done out here, but a huge target nonetheless.